So Alicia Carvalho, thank you so much for coming. We've been warming up a little now, but yeah, thank you. So I would like to start with a little introduction to you. Like, how do you end up being where you are now? How was your path to be like reading supervisor?
Mhm.
And how do you start with all this of animation and 3D craziness?
Sure. Well, I want to say thank you first for having me. It's very, very exciting.
Thanks to you.
So I wanted to be an animator. That's how I kind of got started on this whole path. So when I was like 20 years ago, back in the day when I was like 14, I decided that that's what I wanted to do. And at the time, there really wasn't a lot of information about computer animation,
Mhm.
right? Like this is before Google.
Yeah,
Right? This is way back when.
yeah, 20 years. Yeah, 2000.
Yeah, no, 90s,
90.
90.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, 2099 is when I was around that time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was, yeah, not that
you know,
much. Yeah.
yeah. So all I knew at the time was I knew that computer animation, you needed art and you needed computers of some sort, programming,
Yeah.
maybe some math. So that's what I did in high school. I did art and I did computer programming. So like the first I know, right? The
That's
first
cool.
it's very cool. It was very exciting and very like I learned Turing and I learned like Visual Basic like back in the day. Like
Well, in high school.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
it's not the same in Spain.
No?
No, in high school programming, no, no way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we had programming. We had like a media what was it called?
Well,
Media
well,
class as
m-
well, you know.
maybe now, I don't know. But back in the day, I'm older than you, and no, no. What's computer? It like was like one like computer class, but no programming.
So yeah, so I was lucky enough to have that, so I did that. And then I eventually, well, I knew that Sheridan College was like the place to go because I'm from Toronto, so
Mm,
that
yeah, it's
was
very
like the
famous
place
that
that,
that
yeah,
school. Yeah.
yeah. So I knew they at the time they had like a hand-drawn traditional animation program,
Hmm.
and they had their postgrad program. And I am not patient enough to be doing hand-drawn animation. That is not
Uh,
my personality
but you
at
can
all.
draw. Can you draw?
I can draw.
Wow,
Yes, yes,
amazing.
yes.
That's I'm jealous now.
I'm not like one of those like amazing people that do it all the time. They work in concept. Like I have a lot of respect for what they do, but I can do
Big.
that.
That's
Um,
great. I never had the patience not to the animation, but even to learn how to draw properly. Never had the
oh
patience.
yeah,
No. Yeah.
I felt like I had no choice. Like I think if I could have um, if the for me if that was a path, that was a path that I was going to take.
Wow.
That makes sense.
I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, 14 years old, you decide you want to be an animator and you see the clear path. And
Hmm.
one question, what did make you to choose that path? Was a movie that you watched? Was someone else on your family or close to you, someone that you admire that do you say, oh, how ended up like choosing that? And so, I mean, at really early age, like 14, that's
Yeah. I always like I grew up in the 90s. Like it was the time of like Lion King and Little Mermaid and Aladdin, like that was
mm-hmm.
like the
Yes.
golden age of Disney. And that was something I would always go with my dad actually to see
Uh,
these movies,
yeah,
right?
the
Like
theater.
always every
Wow.
day on his birthday, we would all go as a family to see like
Ah,
one of these films,
that's great.
Um, but my dad is a mechanical engineer.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's a teacher. Like, so there isn't a lot of like artistic,
Mm-hmm.
or like arts in our family. I was never a kid that like, those kids that just they're always drawing and this and that. That was not me. Like I
Oh,
discovered very like late when I was like, I don't know, 13 that I actually had a talent for drawing.
oh,
Um,
that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And that's so when I figured that out, that's when animation then became a possibility for me, right? When I was before that, I was like, oh, I would love to work at Disney and do this stuff, but I like, well, good for you, you can't draw, like, you know. So yeah, so I did art in school. The postgrad program for Sheridan, you need to have an art degree or diploma. And I'm Indian, I'm South Asian, so for my family, you have to go to university. There's that is what you have to do. So if that's what I had to do, then I had to go to school for visual arts.
Oh, I see.
Yes, that was the agreement. You know.
So your family, you must go university and then you do whatever you want, but you get a degree in something. I mean, that's
yes,
wise.
exactly.
I mean, honestly.
That was for my family. Education is always very important because my parents were always very much like, no matter where you find yourself in life, it's like education is what is going to be your life raft, right? It's something you can always fall back on, no matter what. So yeah, so I went to York University. I did a Bachelor of Fine Arts in specializing in visual arts and painting and drawing. So I did a 4-year course doing that. And then when you'll laugh, when I finished that, I had 3 options. One option was, okay, apply to Sheridan, which was very difficult at the time to get into Sheridan. My second option was, okay, I can maybe go for my master's and go into like teaching stream. And then my third option was to go to Japan, because teaching English in Japan was like a thing at the time.
Oh yeah, no, you got me. You got me. That's well, I mean, it was. I mean, still, it's a thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot, a lot of foreigners that come, like 1-2 years. They teach English in school, like native English, and they have the experience here. I mean, it's not something that they want to do like for the whole life, like being an English teacher, but it's a good way to come here and have a job and
and travel. So so I applied to all 3 and I got into Sheridan.
First option, boom.
I was very excited. I was like, yay, Sheridan. Like, no, but Japan.
Anyway. Well, you can come anytime.
After all of this is over, maybe.
yeah, of course. We need to wait a little. Yeah,
unfortunately. So I did 2 of the postgrad certificates. I did computer animation, and then I did the digital character animation certificates. And it was, at the time, I still wanted to be an animator.
So you was still aiming for animator.
Yeah.
But I was checking your. I'm sorry, I was sneaking your LinkedIn. Like, okay, just to make my homework. No, just.
Yeah, I appreciate preparation. Yeah.
But I don't remember to see you any animation position. Maybe I miss it.
I didn't, because what happened was my second year you had to rig your own character, and that's when I learned the node graph in Maya, and I really liked rigging.
Okay, so it's like, ooh, was always node. Ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
Was the node graph? Was the node graph in Maya?
It wasn't. It was
the hypergraph. No, so that was hardcore.
No, hypershader. I think.
Hypergraph. There was a few. I have to say something. I'm not. I mean, I started using Maya around my last year, meaning when I was in Montreal, like 2013. So before I was soft image guy, so I'm not very used to that because when I started was already the node editor that we know.
Yes. No, I was on Maya 8, I think. So like,
wow. Yeah.
Before
Python? No Python back then.
Only Python. I think it was Mel. I started Python my first year of working. So I don't know when it actually.
Me either. I don't remember. Maybe. Yeah. Someone is gonna say, "Oh, I was in version." You should know that. No, sorry, I don't know.
So what happened was, when I left school, I was actually applying for both, for rigging and animation. and I went to the Ottawa Animation Festival. They arrange, you can apply to interview with companies,
Oh,
and
yeah, they have
so
a market
yeah,
like this. Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, it was really really cool. And one of the people that I interviewed with, he was like, you should really choose. Like, if you want a job, you really should like choose a focus. It'll help you a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I was like, well, for me, it's rigging. Like if I had to wake up every day and do something, like
Mm-hmm.
it's rigging. That's what would bring me joy. So
Okay, so you discover it and you try it there, I guess, on your a film like
yeah,
project or with colleagues there on the school,
yeah,
and you say, oh, animation, oh, rigging, and
yeah,
and
yeah.
just riding the wave since then.
Pretty much, right? I think that's kind of what you have to
Yeah,
do. I think in our industry, I
yeah,
think I learned that at a very young, at a
yeah.
very young point.
Yeah, that's
But
great. I mean, normally the people, I mean, nobody wants to be rigger like straight out
mm,
because there is not a clear visual call for that. Like if you see a modeler, you see the
mhm,
image as model, and the people can understand. Oh, I want to do this kind of like models or backgrounds or make painting or
mhm,
animation is clear, is a movement. It's but when you talk about more abstract things that it's not like in your face, like when you see the movie, like
yeah,
rigging that nobody cares about, but every
yeah,
movie need it.
yeah. It's
It
true.
you need to touch it to discover somehow that, and then
Yeah,
find out that it's something that you like. I think I yeah, it's like I never know anybody that was starting on this industry, like learning 3D or animation and saying, I just want to be a rigger day one. It's something that you find in the path. And but
yeah. Sorry.
no. Even thinking about FX, or I think it probably is the I don't know, other like specialization that it's like that it's not like in the first like I don't know how to say on the storefront of
Uh,
choices.
I think it's because rigging, even now, I think rigging is kind of a black box. Like I don't think if you're not in rigging, I think that a lot of people don't really know what's involved
Hmm.
with it. So I could see that even now. And I think that there is a perception that you know you have to be extremely technical, I think, to rig, which I don't 100% agree with. I think that you have to be very logical,
Hmm.
um, and I think that's what um, not frightens people, but I think that people can find very intimidating. They think rigging, oh, you have to be this technical math wizard, and you don't. You know.
Yeah, I believe like it depends of the person. There's
Mhm.
riggers that are really technical and only want to do code and tools, and they you give like an asset to rig, and they really struggle with the formation and anatomy and things like that. And
Yeah,
there are all that are less technical and
yeah.
they're really artistic,
Hmm.
and having this balance, it's very difficult. And yeah, it depends of the person, I think.
Yeah. And I think I really like that you mentioned that. To be very honest with you, I find that um, that emphasis on anatomy, and I think that emphasis on the art, I feel like that gets lost a lot of the times when it comes to rigging.
Yeah,
Um, and that's kind of like, I know later on you want to talk about advice for people coming into
I
rigging. And for me, it was always that duality. There was always the art, and then there was always the technical side.
yeah, like if I can say something, like I've
Mhm.
been doing like interviews for here in Japan. We in it's the way that it works, it's like you do yours like university school, and in April, here it's in April when the new like a like year,
Graduates.
like yeah, it starts the the year course, and finish, and I think it's March 1st when the freshmen arrive to the studio. So they do like interviews when in the last year, and normally almost I don't know if everybody, but I will say 99% of the people who finish the class, they get a job in the studio like right away, boom.
Oh, wow.
And there is like for next year I hope to have two a new like freshmen,
Mhm,
and I did like a few interviews, and it's great. I mean, you need to train them. I mean, it's very junior when they arrive,
mhm,
and so but it's the system is really different to Europe and to the North America, I think. um
mhm.
Sorry, I was losing my train of thoughts here, but what I was trying to say with that, it's that oh damn it, just trying to explain this Japanese way to do the things, and then I completely forgot the sorry,
No worries.
what we were saying about the yeah, the artistic thing. So normally when the people comes like and say that yeah, they really like to say to find new ways to solve stuff and things like that, and that's great. But
Mhm,
many of the people, yeah, I want to develop new tools and new thing, and that's also great, and it's really welcome. But,
mhm.
but the thing is, nobody says I just want to make appealing deformation on the characters, and nobody says that. And the
Yeah.
sad, not, I don't know if it's sad reality or not, is when you get to a studio that it's like mid-size or bigger or big size, and
Mhm.
normally there is a pipeline already established with the tools, its system, everything is there, and
Yeah.
probably you don't have the chance to add like to the tool set or from the beginning or
Mhm.
even many years. There's not, and it's normally no when I ask someone question like, what they do like the less, and say oh like skinning and doing like corrective line shape, and this is the 90% of the work, sadly, even for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. No, you know what? It's the same here, to be very honest with you.
Yeah, it's the
Um,
same.
yeah, it's which, when we're talking about what we do at my studio right now is we do it, all you have is skinning, right? Because we work with the Unreal Engine. All you have is skinning and all you have is blend shapes. So for me, hiring is actually really difficult because having students having juniors, new artists, even some seniors that actually have very strong skinning skills, it's very difficult to find. Which
Yeah,
is it's very counterintuitive, like you would think
yeah,
that's,
yeah, but not even difficult. It's like I understand it's not the most funniest work to do
most
because
exciting.
yeah, exciting, like it's very it can be mechanical, or
Mhm,
less for the way I do it, it's very standardized, like blah, 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 blah.
mm.
But it's kind of cool. I like it when I because you get in the zone, you put music or something, and you
You just go.
you go with the
Yeah.
flow, and with the things works, it's great. So it's not like terrible thing, but the people don't, and also like corrective plane shapes and things like I
Mhm,
really enjoy. I did in the past also like a lot like shot work on character effects, cloth
mhm,
sim and things like that, and you do a lot of shot sculpting. And I
mhm.
remember all my colleagues didn't like it at all, and it was the best for me. Shot
Yeah.
sculpting, fix all the garbage.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that part, and
Mhm.
indeed I was trading. Like I do your shot sculpting, you simulate this for me, and I
I like that. It's very efficient, Miguel. I really appreciate that.
so there is the same like there's yeah a lot of work, but just sorry, we was jumping like you was explaining about your career and just jumping
Yes.
all around already.
It's all good.
That's the way. The yeah, just to maybe to like fast track your career. So
Sure.
so you've been working in several studios, I guess
Yes.
in Canada at all, like
Yeah. So I started out in Toronto. Toronto at the time, and when I started out, it wasn't like it is now for us in
mhm,
Montreal and for you in Japan, where you end school, then you have a job. Like there was
yeah,
more jobs than artists at the time. So you really had to like know your shit.
Yeah.
It's okay if I swear, hopefully.
Yeah,
You
you
need to
can
know
swear.
your stuff.
Shit.
Um,
All the way. It's not for kids.
okay. So yeah, so you need to know your stuff in order to get a job, right? Like this mediocre was really not what was going to cut it. So yeah, so I started out at a company called March Entertainment. We did a show called Mia and Me, which is a TV series, and we were doing hair and cloth at the time, which was very yeah, that was not a thing that you did
TV
in
series,
TV series.
even now, it's not so common.
Yeah, but it was, so that's something that I did. I worked in both the rigging department and, like you, I worked in character funneling as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Which I think, honestly, I think that I would recommend that to any rigging artist, is to do some time in character effects. Because I find that all the cool things that you did that you thought was amazing in your rig, if you work in character effects, you get to see how the animators actually used your rig.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's an important part
yeah,
of
and also you
go
to the dailies, you have revisions with the director, things like that. And normally the rigger, we are in a bubble.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly.
and we are more in the assets part, sadly. And then it's the shots that you miss all that part. And in the interaction with the directors, with the animation directors, all this part, sadly, on it's very minimal, I think, on assets. I mean, probably as a supervisor, you do more, but like the rigger itself doesn't do that much.
Well, we can get into
depends.
that.
Okay,
we'll get into that when we talk about
keep jumping.
So yeah, so started out in TV. For I think a lot of artists at the time working in TV, what was really you want to work in film. Film was like, you know, the big thing. So I worked at a company called Toonbox Entertainment.
I know that one, the big one.
Yeah, we worked on The Nut Job. I don't know if you know about that.
Nut Job, yeah, I know the movie, the squirrels. Yeah, I watched it. That was funny.
Yeah, so
it did well
in
box office.
It did for an independent film. It did really well, which is very exciting. And then at the time, we had friends that had worked in Montreal. Like there was really only one place to do movies at the time, which was Toonbox. So myself and my now husband, we moved to Montreal to see, because there were a lot of places doing feature. So I worked at L'Atelier d'Animation. We worked on Ballerina, or Leap, I think.
Yeah, I know. I have friends there. Or what?
Oh
yeah. Yeah.
And then I worked at Cinesite, because Cinesite opened up a branch in Montreal. So I worked on their feature film.
Yeah, I think that's around the time I left Montreal. Then everybody was coming to Montreal. Like, yes. And I just bye.
Peace out, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, peace. Peace and yeah, like
yeah.
You have your, I think it's your,
yes, my Star Trek shirt. Yeah. Exactly. And then I worked at Microsimage. I worked on Captain Underpants, which was a DreamWorks film, which was very, very cool.
Yeah, I think I watched it the other day on Netflix or Amazon Prime. Yeah. I don't know where is, but I watched it with my kids. Yeah, it was really funny.
Yeah, it was a very cool.
I really like the style. Yeah, very unique.
Yeah, a lot of squishy.
Yeah,
worked on a lot of squishy over the years, you know. So yeah, so I did film for a number of years, and I was starting to get really bored with film. Which I almost feel bad saying, and a lot of people, that's still like what they love. And I don't know if it's because I worked in TV series, but for me, just the fact that, like, okay, you do all your development and then you're just, you know, copy paste, and you're just working on that same thing for a year and a half, 2 years. That was kind of getting tiring for me. So then I got contacted by my current company, Digital Dimension Entertainment, DD. And not the other DD.
Yeah, not digital. It's Digital Dimension. Yeah, for the record. Yeah, I will add it later. The links on the yeah.
And yeah, so they were doing game cinematics at the time, and they were also working on a TV series that was rendered in the Unreal Engine, and that was very exciting to me because I had never worked in games or game cinematics, and I knew TV, but I didn't know what was involved as far as Unreal.
Yeah.
So
I think game
yeah.
cinematics it's a sweet spot. Honestly, at my
Mm,
current company, we do also a lot of game cinematics, like
mhm,
for like mainly it's Japanese animation, game companies
mhm.
that we do game cinematics, and it's a very like sweet spot because it's not like short like advertisement that sometimes
Yeah.
it's like advertisement is cool. I did a lot of advertisement in when I was in Montreal. I was at Shed. It was mainly
It's
advertisement.
quite it's quite
Uh,
fast though, no?
It's fast, but it's cool.
Yeah.
It's like you get the adrenaline rush. You done, and it's done, and it's cool, and you next
Yeah.
thing, and it's always exciting.
Mhm,
And then yeah, the long term, like as you say, like movies or TV series can be a long stretch, and it can
mm.
be boring ish. Depends. It
Yes.
depends.
Yeah.
Also the project. That's not always the case. But yeah, like game cinematics, it's spot like few months, not too long, not too short, good
Yeah.
quality. So
Yeah. And like cool stuff too. Like
yeah.
I was very excited to go back to working on collarbones. My first project because I gone from Captain Underpants, which they're like these little potato people. So
Yeah.
like I was like, anatomy, wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Two arm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Neck.
exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah. 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 We.
Um,
Yeah. That's Yeah. Refreshing sometimes to change styles. I will
yeah,
say. Not
yeah.
always. Sometimes it's like, oh no, this is style. It's difficult.
But
So much pain.
that's part of the yes. That's I think part of the pain is part of the it's part of rigging, right?
Yeah.
Um, I always joke you have to be a little bit of a masochist to work in rigging, right? Because of the pain that we go through.
I don't agree with that. I think it's if I mean if I can expose my point of view here, it's a
Yeah.
for me the pain comes when of course if you have something that it's hard to solve and it's not like
Mm.
getting the results that you want,
Mm-hmm.
that's a pain. But I guess in any other position it's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's gonna be painful when you don't get the results that you want. So it's not like
Mm-hmm.
unique for rigging.
Mm-hmm.
And the other side for me because at some point it can be more I will say the point of view of the things can be
Mm-hmm.
not like something that is very personal. So normally the rig or works or doesn't work, or the deformation
Mm.
in it does something that it's ugly or not. I mean, it can be more specific. I
Yes.
I suffer like a lot seeing my colleagues in animation when it
Mm-hmm.
depends maybe the taste of the director sometimes or the
Mm.
style, and there's not exactly, or even changing the directions. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I saw that directors like going asking for something,
Yes.
and then oh yes, what I ask is, but it's not exactly. So can you, and that kills I think the spirit of many animators. Like because
Yes.
it's not like it's not bad. It's not like incorrect. It's just like a matter
Mm-hmm.
of taste of someone else that you don't have the choice. And
It's very
then
subjective,
yeah,
right?
very subjective. Exactly, that's a word
Yeah.
I didn't find before. And reading, it's still subjective in some uh, stances. I think depends of the animation director or the people they prefer some stuff and others, and you always
Mhm.
have this, but it's less. It's way more objective when you go to
Yes.
the point that
Yes.
other like animation modeling everything else is more artistic driven, so it's more subject to a taste or this.
Yes. Yeah, I
So
agree with you 100%. That's actually, to be fair, that's one of the reasons why I think I did choose rigging is that I
yeah,
liked the fact that it wasn't as subjective as
yeah,
animation. Like it works or it doesn't. Like that's,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. It's not like black and white. There's some gray tones there,
Yes, there's some gray,
but
but like it's
it's
not as bad
yeah, it's
as,
not like
yeah.
yeah, granular. But
Um,
yeah, sorry, I interrupt you.
no, no worries. So yeah, so that's where I am now. I've been at DD for I think 3.5 years now, and the company has changed a bit. We don't do the game cinematics anymore. They've kind of reshuffled. So right now, Digital Dimension Entertainment is like the parent company.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Saturday Animation, which does more of like the children's kind of cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've Medusa Arts, which used to be cinematics, is now for more like adult, mature, shall we say? Again, TV series. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like 100% TV.
Oh.
So yeah.
Oh, interesting. And but even if it's like different companies, it's a really different company. It's just the
No,
we work to. I mean, the team.
no.
It's just depends of the project. It's Medusa or it's uh Digital Dimension. No, so it's like that. No.
It's I think it's more for like a branding point of view. Like, so for me, I'm the rigging supervisor for DD, so I supervise both sides, and we
Uh-huh.
have a team for Saturday, and then we have a team
Oh, cool.
for the Minus Arts side.
And now that we're talking about that, maybe we can jump a little bit on the supervision. I was very curious about your stuff. So how so how many? I mean, you supervising two teams. So how many people do you supervise, or how big is your team? Like in
So right now I have, I think, 5 on one team, and then we'll be going up to 8 on another
wow,
team.
wow,
Yeah.
that's a
But
lot.
I have a lead, so I do have leads
So you
on
have a
both.
lead, and then
Yes.
the that's great. That's
Yes. Yeah.
great.
It wasn't always the case. Like before, it was just me, and then I had my team, so I was doing more like lead,
Mhm.
I guess, work. Um, and then now that we've kind of expanded, then now I'm kind of letting go of some of the day-to-day stuff. Um,
Okay.
but I still try and be involved.
That's cool. Yeah, in my case, yeah, I don't know if before recording or after recording. Yeah, my team is 5
Okay.
people. We have sometimes someone else coming, and also like we used to do like outsourcing, so it
Oh
depends.
yes. Yeah.
But I don't have like um leads unless not yet.
Hmm.
So basically, yeah, I carry on all like supervising, checking assets, management. I have Takuchi-san that it's is the person. She's a rigger also in the team, but also she helps me like with all the management part, and I mean she keeps my neck out of the water all the time. She's my savior. I don't
Yeah.
know what I will do without her. And but she's also a rigger, so she does also her
Hmm.
uh rigging stuff.
Hmm.
And yeah, I do like same like this. And do you do
Hmm.
like asset work? Like do you put your like how is can you explain a little bit how is your day
Sure.
to day, how you
Yeah.
handle your task?
So I think I should probably explain both because like I said, it has changed. So before, the way that it worked is I would um, prototype the main character, and I also would be doing asset reviews and meetings and development. So I, like you, I was like handling all those
Yeah,
things.
that's yeah, very like yeah, similar.
It's a lot of things. One thing that was really awesome about my company is that I had a dedicated day where I would work remotely so that
Hmm.
I could focus on development. So that
Yeah,
was that
yeah.
was really great. Which is also why like switching to 100% remote like wasn't
Uh,
super difficult for me because I was already doing that
yeah,
like
that's
1 day a
cool.
week, and we had procedures for that already in place. Um,
Cool.
so so yeah, so that was kind of before. So now it hasn't really changed because I'm waiting for my lead on the next show, so I'm kind of back into that day
Hmm.
to day stuff. But the way we've been working is that, again, I kind of set up the show, and then when the lead comes on, they take over, and then I go on to like
Hmm.
the next thing. That's currently how we're managing stuff.
Uh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, this is yeah something I like same like I do this prototyping, I standardize, and I do like the template. And maybe we can talk a little more later on the gear part, because I want to ask you about that. And basically what I do, it's create the templates. I create like a standardization with all like data-centric scripted and everything. So basically, after that, we can like replicate that and share the data between the assets and so on. So
Yeah.
that's the funny, like the best part of the process. But also later, I do also like assets because the team is not so big and so on. So we have
I see.
a lot of
Yeah.
work. So after that, I have to take over and do like assets retakes and things like that. And but yeah, we
Okay.
can. And yeah, like for instance, like so basically you have your leads, and
Mhm.
and you need to process the like assignments, or who is gonna doing who. How
Ah,
do you handle your
yeah.
teams? Or it's more like depending of the project they have. It's more like project management who handle that. I don't know. I just
Oh, so
wonder.
I have I should mention a very important role in our department is we have a coordinator. So we have a coordinator per project.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's they're part of the production team. I um I used to try and do a lot.
Hmm.
And I've learned that at least the boundaries that I've kind of set up for myself is that I handle the team and I handle the technical when it comes to production priorities, when it comes to scheduling. Like I depend on a production coordinator
Hmm.
that works with me to do that. So they're in charge of the like, schedule as far as okay, this
Hmm.
person is working on this and this and this, and following up. I work with them as far as like assigning okay who should be assigned to what,
Hmm.
and rearranging if we need if like if issues come up. Um, but yeah, I've taken myself out of you know oh where is this at like no that's not part of what I do.
That's cool. Yeah, in and for instance, the way that you work when you, because I can explain you, for instance, how
Sure.
we work, and
Hmm.
maybe you can say if it's like we get the assets normally, the assets, because the sometimes the projects are very fast, so the assets we need to start rigging before the asset is finished.
Yeah.
And in ideal situations, we have enough time to send retakes to the assets.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
normally it's technical stuff like topology wise and things like that. So, you know,
Hmm.
something that you can make the deformation correctly, because sometimes it's not like ideal. So
Hmm.
that's then when we do the rig and so on, we have like a rig order that we call, that is normally, in our case, all the, it's like, I don't know if you saw the we do mainly like anime style, like kind of Japanese. We not only do that, but this is like probably the bigger part of this kind of style. So everything is rigged, like the cloth, the details, like the every
Oh yeah.
single detail is, we have like hundreds of controls, and the character is super heavy. Like it's no way
Right.
you can get around that, because they need to control everything by hand. And when you see the animation, it looks like moving like simulator. It's not, it's
Mm-hmm.
full frame animate like crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
of course we have a lot of back and forward between the animators or the supervisor and the rigging team, because in at some point it's really hard for the rigging team to know exactly what they need, so we need to have this rig order and back
Yeah.
and forward. And in some situations we keep changing the rig almost until the end of the animation process, so we never have one rig that say this is over, we don't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have the first like publish,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes come retakes, sometimes come like direct changes, like retake. I understand something it was not well done, like
Mm-hmm.
an error may
Mm-hmm.
happen, and changes are something that was not planned, and I need to change that because I need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So how it works for you on that part? It's similar. The
Um, yes and no. Um, I think I can explain kind of like from beginning to end how stuff works for us. So usually what will happen is like I'm I really like to I really think that rigging artists need all the information before they start. So I really push to have animatics or storyboards so that we
yeah.
can actually see what the rig is doing. And my biggest pet peeve is when someone tries to describe to me, oh, no, we have to see it.
Hmm.
Um, So usually what'll happen is I would go through and I'll do the breakdown for the artist as far as like this is what needs to be done. Like
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of an efficiency thing because depending on experience, some artists will just rig everything, even though you don't actually see that moving. Um, so I try and at least say like these are the things that have to be rigged and this is how they're supposed to move.
Mm-hmm.
The artists always have access to the storyboards and everything so that they can see for themselves. They're not, I really don't want them to work in like a black box.
Mm-hmm.
And I always check with animation, like even beforehand, like we will have meetings, like breakdown meetings where we'll discuss how stuff is supposed to go and what they have as far as preferences. We'll get them to sign off um, on rigs ahead of time as far as like this is our plan,
Mm-hmm.
just so that we don't hit that end and then like okay we need to come back. I try and be as proactive as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind of as far as like the planning, and then I also make sure I try and be very transparent with production as far as like that's going to be an extra 5 days or that is going to take extra time or no we can automate that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Indeed it's similar when I was talking like rig order. Like of
Yeah,
course this it's an like a we use like a ticket system or something. Like we
okay,
take notes and everything, and we
yeah,
check the animatics, we check the storyboard, all the visual
yeah,
material that we have,
yeah.
and based on that we decide what is needed. But even doing that, it's hard to like to sometimes to guess all the things like
To anticipate. Yeah,
yeah,
I
for
hear you.
instance, if we have a project, we like we've been doing like a project there was like an internet series,
Mhm.
the Monster Strike, this game, and then we did the movie, and it was like 2 year, I mean super long, like almost 3 years
Oh yeah.
ongoing project and things like that, and the characters the recurring characters, so that that's an extreme case. But even in the
Mhm.
shorter, sometimes it's hard, or the storyboard sometimes it's maybe not
It's
as
not what you need.
it's
Yeah,
not super details or things like
yeah,
that. It's but yeah, but of course we check all the material and talk with
as much as you can, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, to assess the best of the like what you can do with for that. So maybe the character
Mhm.
doesn't do some specific actions, probably
Mhm.
just just avoid to put attention to that part. If you see only the character, like in maybe it's 3 shots and you don't see the legs, don't care about the boots. you know
Oh yeah,
the
I
things.
so as far as that, I always whenever someone says like, "Oh, you don't see that part," I'm like,
No, well,
I don't believe you.
we
Because I like in animation, right? Depending on the camera angle, I've always found that anytime that we've like um gone for the easier way, then it ends up biting us, and like you said, it ends up coming back.
yeah
So like so yeah, so we have our breakdown, rig our characters according to that, but we try and have something as like complete and as polished as possible. Like a big thing for me is that we have a range of motion, and if your rig does not pass the range of motion, it does not go out.
mm,
um, and that's the reason why I mention these things, is because that's something that for new artists, and even some not so new artists,
mm,
it's sometimes it's hard for them. They're like, oh, but you don't see that. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. Like you need to have a certain level of
yeah
completion, a certain level of polish,
yeah
um, and I find also some artists their instinct is, oh yeah, well we'll just add more controls for the animator, and I I really don't agree with that as well, because I'm like, you're just, it's something that you could have fixed by polishing more. You've now put the onus on the animator
yeah
to fix something.
yeah that's something also that I have. I mean, like for instance, the we do rig everything. Obviously we not,
Mhm.
but yeah, there is some parts that we pay more attention than others depending of the
Mhm.
project, of course, and depending
Mhm.
of like if it's a like very specific short thing, maybe it's
Yes.
more for forgiver for
Mhm.
I don't know how to say that.
Forgiving.
Yeah, forgiving.
Oh.
And if it's longer, you need to polish more because you don't know what is coming down the road. And the other
Mhm.
thing is like, and that's funny because sometimes we, and the studio, we have the other way around. The animators, sometimes I talk with them and say, you need this, and they say, yes, put control here, here, and here. I want controls there, like
Mhm.
tweak controls to handle some specific part. And
Mhm.
why is the reason to you want that? No, because just in case it cross when I do that and you have intersection, then you don't want the control. What you want is to avoid intersection.
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then and then there is another conversation with animation, like, okay,
Okay.
what you really want is
Mhm.
that
Yes.
isn't,
Yeah.
it's a good deformation or it's a good thing. And then if we cannot get it there, or for any reason you really need that control, we can add it. I mean, it's not a big problem for us, but just
Yeah.
don't charge the animators with more controls
Yeah.
just to avoid to do like an extra thing. But that's
Yeah.
something,
Exactly.
yeah, that sometimes hard to balance. I and I guess depends of the project also, the style.
Yes. Yeah. I I don't know. I'm very I don't want to say rigid. I am a little rigid. When it comes to I am. When it comes there's for me there's certain like there's a certain way um that I like to work, and there's a certain way that I think that rig should be done. Um and so when I get in the situation where someone's like, "Oh, but it's just like I out of my experience where I've dealt with I've been bitten by that.
Hmm.
That's the main reason why for me it's like our job is to have the most complete work possible in the time that we have, um, which I'm sure is the case for you guys as well. But I
Yeah.
really want to make that distinction because I've experienced that where people have said, "Oh, but just don't rig the legs." I'm like, no, the
No.
legs have to be rigged
No.
because you're gonna end up, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
that of course we do the whole character. Is like more
yeah,
if you do the corrective lane shapes to make super nice silhouette when articulates
yeah,
the knee
yeah,
or the
exactly.
ankle. If
Yeah,
you don't see the legs, maybe we skip that part if we don't have the
yes,
time. This is what I meant, like
yeah, exactly.
polishing, not to just leave. It can be a problem if you maybe the camera is the one boot that doesn't move in the middle of the shot because you.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that like again, it's very interesting how like some artists that doesn't compute, and they'll submit stuff that we don't that middle of the
Yeah,
boot doesn't
yeah.
move.
We have a lot,
Um,
and in that part, we have a lot of automatizations there. We also do
mhm,
this range of motion test.
yes. Yeah.
Basically, we the way that we work, we have a little tool on pipeline that is the
Mhm,
rig builder. Basically,
mhm,
we send the rigs to the farm,
okay.
and the it has two level of checkers, the
Mhm,
visual, and also we have implemented the publish. Do you know the publish? It's an open source um, uh, publishing and validator.
okay.
It's from Marcus Ottoson. It's the guy who did the QTPY library that everybody's using, I think.
Oh yes, yes. I know what
Yeah,
you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah. So he did also the this publish thing. It's like it's fantastic. And so we have a ton of like checkers, like validators,
Hmm.
uh, like
Hmm.
and then we have two visual checkers, that is the range of motion, like
Hmm.
body, and one for the facial. And
Hmm.
that goes also when you send to the farm, creates a camera and
Hmm.
render and everything. It's like automatized.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and sometimes yeah.
Well, we do the same thing. We have a range of motion that the artists have that in their scene, and then they also like check their work against. That is how I do reviews. Is range of motion. And
So
we try and have
you
something
check
as
the like this range of motion like video, like, that's
I
interesting.
no actually I apply it in the rig.
Ah, so
So
you load the
that's
rig, yeah, okay,
I load it up, and that's what I'm looking at.
yeah.
Is that everywhere I've worked, I've always pushed to have a rendered cal test or rendered range of motion.
Hmm.
Um, because as you know, there's the two pushes, or two crunches. Like one is for animation, and then one is when you start rendering and you start seeing the differences between like viewport smoothing versus like the renderer smoothing.
Yeah.
So I always push to have that as well, so that we can
Yeah.
see everything and validate it ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I have my, yeah, for me, I have a little library in Studio Library, this plugin. So
Yes.
I have that one,
Yeah.
and I have not only the typical range of motion that you do, like very mechanical, but also like a
Mhm.
few mocap uh
Ah, yeah.
motions, like one
Cool.
like fighting and another like walk, and yeah, random things that we have a capture system at the studio, so it's easy
Mhm.
for us to get data. So
Mhm.
we have a bunch, and I just random put some
Yeah.
of them to checks depending of the character also. So
And that's what you have to do, right? You have
yeah,
to make sure that it's as bulletproof as possible before it goes out.
yeah,
Because
yes.
for me, like we get a lot of that stuff from animation, because I try and um, because they're the end users, and I try and make sure that I'm getting their feedback
Mm-hmm.
on how they're going to use the rigs, because I found in the past like my assumptions aren't necessarily the same as theirs. And that's part of what we do. So we have internal QC, so we do peer reviews depending on where we are in our project.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a peer review, which means one artist will check another artist's work. When that's good, it'll go to me or to the lead. And then once that's good, it'll go to animation for animation review.
That's
And then
interesting. The
it'll
peer
go,
review, we
yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah. So peer
Taking
review.
note,
Yeah.
learning.
So I'll explain to you why we do peer review. Um, and it's something that I explain to every incoming artist or in interviews. Um, so it's for two reasons. One is that, as I'm sure you know, as a supervisor, sometimes artists, when they're really um, in the rush or in the weeds, they don't necessarily check their work as much as they should,
Mm.
because I feel like the thinking is, oh well, Alicia's going to check it, or Mikhail's going to check it, so you know. And part of peer review is that if you're experiencing that, where you're taking time out of your day to like review somebody else's work, and there's like mistakes that really shouldn't be there,
Mm-hmm.
I feel that you are more likely to be more vigilant with your work when
Mm-hmm.
you're going through that, you know.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why we do peer review. The other reason why we do peer review is that I find, as reading artists, our work is like our baby.
Mm-hmm.
We put all of this like love and attention into it, and no one likes to hear that their baby is ugly, right? So it's a good way to get used to constructive criticism, right?
uh, yes.
And what I tell my team is that like it's a skill to give criticism, and it's a skill to receive
Mm-hmm.
criticism. So
Yeah.
that's part of what they're working on, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're a reading artist, you have to get used to the fact that you're gonna have to redo. You're gonna have to change how you look at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps me to make sure that we're working the same way.
Yeah.
Because what I tell them is that like, so we have certain standards according to what the animation department wants, as far as how we rig stuff, or how we name stuff, or control visual language, right? So what I tell them is that, if you're having disagreement as far as how you think something should work, that's good. That way you guys get a chance to talk and communicate
Mm-hmm.
and figure out what is the pros and cons of how you're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And what I tell them is I say, I'm the tiebreaker. Like if you guys don't agree, you come to me, we discuss as far as like how stuff's being done. And then once we decide, like that's how we go. Right. So it makes people like not just be in their little bubble working away, like it makes
Yeah.
people kind of more talk as a team as well.
Yeah. That's great. And I was thinking like also like the people learn of doing that. Maybe if they doing someone did a mistake, and you doing another character from the same show, maybe you will avoid
Hmm.
that mistake. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a great way to learn. And how you
Yeah.
do these peer-to-peer reviews? It's more like a rounds, like everybody, I or it's more like one-to-one, like exchanging. I check mine, I check yours, or how works that?
We actually kind of build that into the production schedule now as well. So usually it's not it's random as far as who gets who.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we try and switch it up so that it's not always the same person reviewing the same person's work. But as soon as you're assigned to review on one character, you will always review that character, because
Oh,
it's frustrating for an artist when one person says one thing, a couple
okay.
things, and the other person looks at it
Uh,
and sees something else, you know?
yeah.
So yeah, so we actually it's fairly standard. The production coordinator and I, we figure out, okay, this person. We use shotgun, so it goes into shotgun as soon as you put your
Uh,
stuff into peer review. A notification will pop up for
yeah.
whoever. Hey, this is ready.
Yeah.
So
Shotgun.
yeah,
Shotgun. I miss
yes.
shotgun. We don't have it.
Ah, I was wondering when you were talking about the
You we
your
use
checker.
like a
Yeah.
yeah, we use like indeed we use a GitLab, the Kanban
Oh
of
wow.
GitLab.
Okay.
We don't need that much. I mean, just
Yeah.
something we can put notes and assign task, and we have like columns,
Yep.
and we have like non-assign, assign, work in progress, or waiting, and we just moving, and you have like anims SB. It's
Mm-hmm.
animation supervisor review and approve or
Yeah.
retake back, and so
Yeah.
it's very simple. But yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have the peer review, and probably we can add some columns with names of say to review this one. If it's good,
Yeah.
send it to the to Miguel, like to the
Yeah.
rigging supervisor, and if it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I learned really interesting stuff today. I'm glad. That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, super good idea. But yeah, we don't have shotgun. I that's something I really want, but that there's circumstances that we doing like some we have some tools internally that
Mm-hmm.
cover parts, so it's hard to put only that for certain parts. So
Yeah.
that's the issue. But
Makes
yeah, I
sense.
remember shotgun. You have this yeah, the automatizations, the how it's called, the
The trigger system.
yeah, trigger system. Yeah, exactly. When
Yeah.
you don't need even to care, you just publish, and probably if you have like a tank or tanker, it's called
Tank is
yeah, the
the yeah.
integration on the DCCs,
Yeah.
and you publish and pop pops it publish. Someone
Yeah.
check this.
Yeah.
I don't have work. Please send me more. Or yeah,
Well,
I miss
see,
that.
that's another thing that, as far as uh I I I always try and make sure that artists have at least, like, their task list is at least three deep, so that if once you finish, you go on to the next one, or but once you're stuck, you always have something else. And if you run out of that, I have dev tasks for you.
Oh, that's
You
interesting. Yeah,
always, yeah,
a
always
few
have work.
assignments. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also have that, and we have something that maybe it's a little hardcore, but we we run several shows at a time, and in
Mhm.
some situations, we have multiple show assignments
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
same person.
yeah.
And what we do is like we don't have ownership of the asset.
Ah, yeah.
So basically means that the standardization, it's everybody works like with the same standards.
Hmm.
So it goes for revision.
Hmm.
Revision have a retake, and the retake it's assigned to another person because it's free.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah. Do you
So
like working that way?
it I found if you have a good standardization
Hmm.
and avoiding ownership of the asset, it has a few advantages. Not always it's easy. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the advantages is like you can, especially if you assign people like a small project in small team, and you have people one project and people to another project, or people one asset and people to another asset. In some circumstances, maybe one is over like worked, another
Mm,
person
yeah.
is even having free time.
Hmm.
So that
Yeah.
balance
Yeah.
the thing. The other advantage is that because we don't have ownership, everybody anytime can fix a rig from
Yeah.
another uh, peer. So means
Yeah.
if someone is a day off or it's a sick day, or we have rigs from 2 years, we can
Mm,
we still understand how it was done,
mhm.
and we can still editing or
Yes.
continuing the show. I've been in other like studios that we didn't have this ownership, and even the ownership was really hardcore. Like, this does the facial, and this does the
Mhm,
hair, and this
mhm,
person does that,
mhm.
and everybody was doing his own, of course, automatization with little scripts and things like that.
Ah,
One it was
yeah.
using Mel, the other was using Python, but API only, no comment
Mhm,
code, things like that. And this person, it's not there that day,
mhm,
you cannot fix the
mhm.
facial. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
a big issue. So
So, so do you do as far as the retakes, is that like past, is that when they're first doing the rig, or is that after the rig has been approved and then they have retakes from animation?
yeah, it depends. We have the first approval, that is the published
Hmm.
one.
Okay.
So then normally we have like I review.
Hmm.
Then if I think it's okay, it's the animation supervisor who review, and if it's the animation supervisor it thinks okay, it's approved and it publish.
Okay.
So that's we have these steps.
Yeah.
um and apart, we have all internal check, as I was commenting before. If
Yeah.
the animation supervisor thinks that something, or me found something that doesn't work, or like details, we send them
Hmm.
back. We just added the notes and send them
Yeah.
back. So
Yeah.
that's but we don't have the peer review. That will be like really awesome to have that between,
Yeah.
yeah, and make the people more, yeah, participate more. And I think it,
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah,
we work
that's
the same. We work similar to you actually. Like, so your ownership only extends until the point that, ideally, until the point that you publish. Like once it goes through to animation, once
yeah,
animation approves, then it opens up to like department fixes, and it's the same as you, where
yeah,
because
exactly,
we all try and work the same way. Yeah, like anybody can pick up um
yes,
a retake. Yeah. So,
yeah,
but before that point, like if it's just as far as like their peer review or their lead review or anim review, then it is like locked to the same artist, and unless they're sick or, like you say,
yeah,
something else
yeah,
happens.
yeah, 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 exactly,
um and the main reason for that is that, so that way they're I try, that way they're learning from their mistakes, like
yeah,
um
yeah,
so
exactly.
we
No,
kind of
don't,
have half an hour.
yeah, normally these reviews are also fast, means
Mm-hmm.
probably in the same day, you or same like moment. I just check it out quickly, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
even sit with him and it's like check it out. Like, it's easier sometimes to show the stuff instead to add in. I mean, we try to track all the notes, but sometimes to
Mm-hmm.
show the thing, it's easier to just sit with the
Yeah.
person and talk about that. um and yeah, normally is when it goes out and then it comes back
Mm-hmm.
for any reason, is when we
Yeah.
don't, we just assign to someone else. In many situations, even the ticket, it's close and open a new ticket.
Ah, yeah, it's the same. We
Okay.
work the same as far as that.
And yeah, it have like someone starts the rig, and
Mm-hmm.
for circumstances we it's assigned to another project, and the rig is half done. That happened.
Mm,
And
yeah.
then someone else continued that, but still, like,
Yeah.
the yeah, ownership is not like you don't have anything to,
Yeah.
but like in terms of ownership, it's like it's standardized, so it's not your rig, it's a team rig. It
Yeah.
belongs to the team, and everybody can help. Or even in some situations, depend of the rigger, is maybe it's more junior, or it's a
Hmm.
difficult thing, or so maybe it's transferred to another person
Yeah.
or to myself in situations. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, like not ownership in terms of like
It's
the,
locked to like that person, and it's
yeah,
only ever that person. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I
because
agree with you 100%.
I've been in productions that, yeah, it's locked to one person, and this asset is
Hmm.
from this person. If you would try to touch it, it's like, where to start?
Yeah. Um, I agree with you 100% because I'm sure we both experienced that, where someone's sick, you take over their asset, they've done stuff in a different way, and you have a deadline as far as
Yeah,
delivering it, and you're
yes,
trying to like decode what they've done in the scene. Like, no, I agree with you 100% that like standardization,
Yeah,
it sucks. It does suck for those rigging artists that like they want to develop their own thing, or they want to
yeah,
they
yeah.
want
You
to,
have
oh, I want to create a
trade-offs.
new
Yeah,
skirt rig, yeah,
yeah.
but this is what the animation director wants, so.
Yeah, also this is good for outsourcing, because when you have
Mhm,
everything outsourced, sometimes the company who's outsourced it's contract for a fixed time period, but the project is
mhm,
longer, and sometimes you need to maintain this asset,
mhm,
and because everything is standardized, so it's not problem. So you can send it,
yeah.
receive it, everything it's with the standards that we use, and
Mhm.
we can maintain the rig later or do changes or variants. That's another thing. We do a lot of variations of the rigs,
Oh, okay, yeah.
like in terms like characters changing cloth, they have a fight, there's a tear down part, different
Yeah.
textures with holes. So, and that's another talk probably. But yeah, we reuse of course a lot of stuff. Yeah.
So do you so you I don't want to impose your standards on your outsourcer, right? So they have to work with how you guys do your naming and your,
Yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
of
We
course, but
we
like
yeah,
the under
it's
the hood stuff, do you send them
oh yeah.
like,
We send
ah, okay.
we send everything. I mean,
Yeah.
the outsourcer, we send the version of M Gear that we're using. We send all
Mhm.
this standardization. Normally, I don't know. Well, the data centric thing. I want to ask you about that if you're using it or not. But basically, we use what I call the data centric rigging, but it's more like serialization with automatization. So basically, we
Okay.
serialize everything on the rig.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have a folder structure that we have like folders that are shared, means that
Mm-hmm.
are shared in the as in the same, for instance, the same character for different variants, or at
Okay.
level asset,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, a character level or production level. So so we have different sharing, like like
Oh, I
parts.
see. Yeah,
Like
I
we
get.
have like one little custom step, like little script that creates
Mm-hmm.
the anim, what we call anim flags or anim sets, for that is
Mm-hmm.
what publish for the pipeline to publish the
Mm-hmm.
animation. So that it's at like share at project level, means that if you have
Ah,
a
I see.
prop character, or maybe we differentiate between characters and monsters,
Mm-hmm.
but this is shared between all the assets in the production. So if we change this file, we can edit all the rest of the characters at the same time.
Cool.
um so we send all this package to
Mm-hmm.
the outsource company,
Yeah.
and they build with the same structure. So when they send us the data, we just
Mm-hmm.
copy, basically literally copy the data in all folder structure that we have
Mm-hmm.
same, and we
Got it.
build. And
Mm-hmm.
we never, I mean, I don't know, I want maybe just maybe we can jump already to the MGR stuff if you want.
Sure.
We don't have we don't work with the asset itself with what I
Mm-hmm.
call like asset centric. We don't edit the asset. Oh, camera's off. Steve, come back. Sorry.
No
the
worries.
the asset, it's I would say it's built each time we publish. Each time we'll
Mm-hmm.
do. So we never save the asset, open the
Oh, I
asset,
see.
run a script that change something, and close the asset again.
Right.
We don't do
Redo.
that.
It'll rebuild with all the different
Y-
parts, and then that creates your final.
yes, exactly. Every single time we build clean
Mm-hmm.
the asset. So
Mm-hmm.
it looks a little tedious at the beginning, especially
Mm-hmm.
if or but on the long run, it save a lot
Yeah.
of time and a lot of like we share a lot of data between the assets, like
Mm-hmm.
like especially the scripts part. It's all almost share. So we
Oh, I
just
see.
change the, because it's different folder structure. So we just have one script that needs to be
Mm-hmm.
copied in the specific folder, and this says, okay, I'm here, so I know where all the path relative to this character. So here is the
Mm-hmm.
skinning for these characters, and you can build, and the rest is like share like that. So we avoid like getting dirty the data in Maya,
Mm-hmm.
and also like if well, data corruption, things like that. we can track the changes better. So we
Mhm.
do change, and for some reason we want to backtrack, we just rebuild again without the change. So it's not like
Yeah.
going back and forward. So it has a few advantages. And how do you handle that? Do you have...
So I've worked the way that you're describing. I've worked that way in the past, where it's very much like you import and then you have your different things that you run and then you have your output. We actually work with referencing in our our system. So like we use mgear, so you have your template you build. We have different scripts that can be run as well at build time. We have a work file, and that's where all of our skinning and extra rigging happens. And then you do your preparation before you publish. That
Mhm.
creates your work file, if you will, because we use Shotgun, right? So you have to have a work file, and then we publish out. So like for me, it's really important in your work file that what you see inside of your work file is exactly what the rig is going to look like at the publish time.
Yeah.
So yeah, the referencing kind of a lot of the stuff that you're doing where you're running your different scripts, the referencing kind of takes care of some of that stuff.
Okay. So, well,
Yeah.
that's funny. We used to also have like Word files, that is the files that work in progress stuff, of course. We do that to create
Yeah.
the changes, and later we extract the data and build clean. So when
Then
we publish with clean, but we have the Word file to work, of course, and
yeah.
it's called Word file. It's just so it's
Yeah.
exactly the same. Um, but yeah, and so you have like your deformation like Word file that is the one that it's gonna be published, and you have like the behavioral that it's kind of separated, or you no, it's not like
Behavioral.
games, it's like games assets that tends to have the deformation part, and
Oh, I see.
and
No, the rig logic and the deformation, they live in the same file.
in the same file, because I was talking like, I know, I think it's Blue Sky does that. It has
Mm-hmm.
an part that builds the rig, but the
Mm-hmm.
deformation is in like an asset that they import and binds to the rig,
Yeah.
things like that. To say they can
Yeah.
rebuild that part also, for what I
Mm-hmm.
hear, but it's a bit more like try to keep the asset like Maya file. What I
Yeah. I've worked that way as well, where you do all your skinning on one or your deformation on one, and then that kind of connects to your actual rig. Um, yeah, it's so that's kind of the interesting thing about some of my path actually is that like so in Toronto, a lot of places I worked at, we worked the way you're talking about, very data centric. And then when I came to Montreal, so I worked at a uh, Quebecois company that they came from Soptimage and then they were going on to Maya. I worked at Cinesite, it's a UK company, and I worked at Nikos, which was it's a French company, and their styles of rigging very different, and their workflows were very different.
that's very
And
interesting.
it was very interesting for me as a rigging artist to get used to changing, I guess, how and also kind of like it really opens up your mindset, because if I had just stayed in Toronto, I would have thought that the way that I was doing stuff in Toronto, like that's the way to do it.
Yes.
So yeah, so the way that we currently work is I can't take credit for it because that's what my predecessor, he's the one that set up the main kind of framework. Um, but what I have learned in the past as far as flexibility, I think, as far as how we kind of put stuff together. Um, I have had artists in the past where they really want to work this data centric way, where they don't actually have their final rig inside of their quote unquote work file. And I find that can cause a lot of, well, you don't really need that because we work with referencing, like we don't really need that per se, because referencing it keeps memory of like what you've done in the file. And I have found that working in this way, you need to build every single time. Like you need
Yes.
to go from your work file into your pre-published file, if you will. And I, I used to work that way, and for me that was like 100% the way to work. And I really like, for me personally, having all of the rig inside of my work file so I can see everything working together. I'm not a super patient person, so I don't like having to wait for builds. Like you were asking how we work with MGear, like we use MGear very much for our auto rig for our characters, and then we actually do custom rigging inside of our scenes. And the main reason why is that I like the characters to get to a point where they're locked, like, you know, their pivots, whatever is done, and then we don't have to go back to that step. And I find that kind of avoids adding errors to your rig, because you know that this part is solid, and then you can just go from there.
Yeah, so you start like maybe like this data centric, and then you move to asset centric, where you have your file, your word filer, where you keep adding changes, and maybe it's manual stuff to some details that they are very unique, so you cannot standardize everything to that uniqueness.
Exactly, right. And then, but like we do have areas where we can hook into the build process, right? So we can add code wherever we need to add code. So it is a bit of a mix.
Yeah, I'm think this it's yeah, it can really work depending again the way that you like and the way that your projects are done. I in my case, we do sometimes this pre-build part, like something like just I don't have this component that do this specific thing, so I do it by hand.
Yeah.
But I take this part, save it as a little asset, and rebuild it. What I mean is, like, when I build, I take this part, import it, and connect. And I try to keep this to something very easy to edit in terms of. And the other thing, it's for me, it's the reusability and maintainability in long-term projects. And when we have like hundreds of assets in some projects, like for instance, I don't remember the numbers exactly, but in the Altered Carbon movie that we did for Netflix, it was like a lot of characters, some of like main characters, but if you take like maybe characters are 30 characters, but each character maybe have 3 different variations, like cloth, like without shirt, naked, with the tattoos, and all these kind of things. So it's the same character, but maybe you have 3-4 variants of this character. And then from each of these variants, we have different targets. So we have like the layout versus resolution. We have the rigs we build like up to, in some like 4, what we call like, it's like the basic facial, complete and complete facial. So basically, it's one is the kind of layout, more like lightweight one. The other is lightweight with the facial, like the heavy with all the controls, and heavy with all the controls facial. So of course the last one is the one that goes later to bake and unbake and to continue in the pipeline, but the others are depending of the animator, and they can switch. And we use reference, of course, on animation, but also they can publish we like separate the channels or the controls in groups on sets. So when you publish, you can publish different, separate the sets. So when you rebuild the scene, you can only import the part that correspond to your asset. So because in referencing, if you don't rest your rig, maybe you lose the animation and when you change. So
doesn't it get wait, are you guys using Maya or are you using
but well, not when the reference, sorry, when you recreate the scene.
Oh yes,
So basically we end up with hundreds, literally hundreds of assets to maintain. And then is when, if we need to do this editing manually, even if it's automatized, like running scripts or something, it's really really hard to us to maintain. While if we have it this data centric, I had the situation in one of the projects that was it was a Maya bug. You have one plug to like was like rotation scale translation, very basic plug, no? So it's you have the compound and you have separated 3 axes. So depend
Yes.
on the node editor. So basically, if you have the compound and then you take one of the separated axes and use it to move as a driving key, and back then in that project we was not baked into Alembic, the render farm in some of the nodes have glitches in evaluation.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
So we had to rebuild all the rigs to use 3 to connect 3. So we pull 1 instead to use the compound connection.
Right.
Usually you have this kind of, you need to open the rig, run the script, close the rig, check that it's, and what we did is it took like maybe half morning to find out where it was failing.
Right.
And it was 1 line of code in NemGear. I deployed that one, and I ran it at 20 something characters in 2 hours on the farm.
Very cool.
So
see, that's the kind of stuff that we can, because we're using MGear at the beginning, like that's the kind of stuff that we can do. It's not as like big of an issue because that's the core of the character.
Yeah.
But then we have the it's true that, you know, if there was a similar issue in like multiple characters, but then like, do you guys, if you're working on variants, do you have a different file per variant, or do you have them all in one file and then you split?
No, we have different files per variant.
Okay.
I mean, the files, we have this, I mean, the way that we structure, we have like, you can guess this kind of folder structure that you have characters, and inside characters you have each character by name, and each character by name you have the variant of each character. Right. And inside of these folders you have like this shared data that depends, can be like character level, or can be like a specific character level, or even one of the variants of the character. So it depends. Well, then it will be not shared because it's just the last
right.
But so it depends of the place. So some of the files are duplicated on the different parts, and some of the files are completely like really share.
Okay.
And same for the guides. It's the only that we right now, even we it's possible to edit the guides on MGear on the fly, so you can add parts of the guide when you build, so you can have one share. But we don't do that. I mean, there's no great reason to don't do it. It's just we don't do it. But yeah, so yeah, it depends. I guess is the short answer for that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool thing, is that like it like you say, depending on where you work, there's so many different ways to set up your characters and set up your workflow depending on like what your needs are. And that's part of what I really like about rigging, is that like there's really different ways, and I also think that's part of, I think, with the experience, what comes with rigging is like, how do you make sure that you've given yourself enough room that you have flexibility?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but again, it's everything. It's in the. I will not recommend to do that in all the situations. In some situations, like you have one like, advertisement, one character, 1 week, 2 weeks project. The rigger has 4 days.
Yeah.
No worth. In some other like, and of course don't close to anything. That's also important for me, I will say.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So you may have your main way to do the things, but have enough flexibility to ad hoc, like add in different ways to solve specific situations that you may find. So don't have the absolute rigidity. That's horrible. So
Yeah.
if you need to do it by hand, stuff, do it by hand. If solves it,
And have you experienced that as like in your career where you develop something and you hit that point where you were too rigid and you've learned to then have that flexibility,
oh yeah, all the time.
right? I think everyone
Yeah.
you're like, this is how I'm going to do something, and then you hit it, you're like, crap.
Yeah.
And from that point on, you learn, right?
Yeah, that happen all the time, and still, like, I mean, if I mean if I mean the software is still evolving, the tools and gear are still like in development. It's I see. I mean, if you know my roadmap, it's crazy. If you see my to-do list, not the one that is in the GitHub that is public, but the one that I don't even show because it's too shameful to to it's it's never ending, and it's because that it's a lot of stuff. Like you do to something, it's garbage, and you use it because you don't have time to keep looking around.
Yeah,
But you know, in your heart, it's just a duct tape in everything.
it's a dirty way to do it, but you have no choice, right? You
Yes,
have to get
exactly.
stuff
And I
out.
have like a ton of, like, MGL, you have these components, and the
Mhm,
library is growing, and I have version 2, and normally the goal is when we change big version to 4,
mhm,
4 point something, so we break backwards compatibility codes there. I try to keep, like, you can update the guys and everything,
mhm,
but then I like solidify, like maybe I have 3 chain 01, 02, 03, and I
mhm.
try to bring back, and I have a lot of these components that I don't share, that are
Yeah.
little changes to fix. In some components is chain for I don't know, this character with the character name, because it's only for this character to solve this specific issue.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and I do it like that, and it's very and it sometimes, yeah, it's just the asset itself, like Maya file with a mini rig that I load and
Yeah. But see, I think that's really important to share. Like
yeah.
not to share like that you're sharing right now, because I really feel like um we I feel like the younger artists and even ourselves,
Mhm.
for the many years that we've been doing it, we feel this pressure that I'm gonna build this thing and it's gonna be super clean and it's gonna be beautiful and it's gonna go
No,
out, and that's not the reality of
no,
what we do.
sadly, no. And
You know?
all the rigs are breakable, like in terms of like posing, articulation, things like that. And uh, you, I mean, it's super hard to get like perfect. I mean, it doesn't exist perfect. And
No.
I always try to say, like, done is better than perfect,
Yeah.
because sometimes you have a schedule to fulfill, and you have deadlines to reach,
Yeah.
and this is horrible, but
Hmm.
it works. And also
Yeah.
some animators are very savvy, and I send rigs like knowing, like, that's horrible. It's not gonna they're gonna spit in my face, and then I see the animation and it's like, really, you can do that with my rig?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
So
that's
it's interesting that you bring that up. So for me, it's really important to um, have good communication with animation.
yeah.
Um, like you say, right? So like what I tell my team is that like there are going to be things that
Hmm.
you need to send it out, and there's something wrong in it.
Hmm.
Tell them, just so you know, this is a known issue. Like be super
Oh yeah,
transparent.
yeah, yeah. I say
You
all the
know,
time.
yeah, because it's the
I'm
worst.
sorry.
Like it's the worst when you're like, please don't touch that
Yeah,
control, and because it's gonna like no like tell people so they know what's going on, so that I
yeah.
find that I find that there is a kind of false attitude when it comes to animation and rigging, that animators and riggers don't get along.
Yeah.
um and I'm very much against that way of thinking.
Yes, I think I there is depend of the person. In
Yes.
general, I will say it's true what you say. It's like I agree. I found some. in some situations was um,
It's tough.
I
Yes.
well, I let's say I met a lot of people in my life, and some people
Yeah.
it's easier to like go on. Maybe it's me, maybe I don't know,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's but yeah, it's not true that it's always like this. I saw the other day a meme on Twitter, like it was super funny. Riggers animators fighting.
Yeah.
It's not like that, and indeed,
Mm.
I think my best rigs, the ones that I was more like proud, satisfied, was
Mm.
I know that was doing that with very specific animators. There are
Yeah.
animators, they're really good giving feedback and really good um, with ideas,
Hmm.
and they're the gold, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like I was talking the other day, I don't know with who, like I put the example of the F1 teams. You have the in the F1 teams you have the pilot,
Yeah, yeah.
but also they have your
The
test
pits.
driver. The test driver.
Yeah.
There's sometimes because to calibrate the car there is a one
Oh,
there is a speciality that they don't drive the races, but they are really good
okay.
calibrating the cars.
Got it. Okay.
So and they fine tune the car to the race
Hmm.
the specific um like I don't know how to say, like the course.
Hmm.
And I found sometimes there's some animators are really good at that,
Yeah.
really good, and they have really good idea. They understand the rigging, and they ask for
Hmm.
stuff. And in some situations, uh, there are animators that asking stuff like, "Oh," and it contradicts himself. Like, I want to do that,
Hmm.
but move that. Yeah, but that's not like. I mean, maybe in real life there's physics, and you move your arm,
Hmm.
or and it works like that, but not gonna work in 3D as you imagine. And
Yeah.
and then is when it comes to conversation. You must
Yeah.
have this conversation. Be professional. Don't be like asshole.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Yeah,
And then that's something that for me, I've same as you have experienced that where I I feel like there sometimes you can come up against somebody's ego as far as how they think the rig should be.
mm,
Um, and then for me, it's like, are you really? Is this really about the rig, or do you want to be able to say that you work like you're working on this really cool rig, et cetera, et cetera? Like it's less about like
ah,
the
yeah,
actual work at hand and what we need to accomplish. Um,
yeah. That, yeah, maybe less. I think in my
Sometimes, not all
yeah,
the
in my
time.
experience was more like really like someone that genuinely thinks that it's gonna work, not like because you
Yeah,
when you try this like no, that's gonna no.
yeah,
And then I ended up doing in some situations like doing actual rig to show, look, this is what you're asking, and you see when you move this that happened this. Ah, now I see, because maybe they
yeah.
can't see the I don't know how to say that, but maybe
They
with
can't
the
visualize it.
yeah, exactly. I
Yeah,
guess the get with the practice, like any other, like I will say artisan in the world, like
yeah,
with practice you can visualize something even before you do it. And yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
that's something that I try and, like you say, like communication, I think is really important. And a lot of the times, whether it's animation or modeling or production,
Hmm.
because rigging is such a black box,
Hmm.
it's really important that we're like training people as far as like, hey, like this is like what you're asking and what that actually is two different things, and this is why. Like,
Mm,
you know what I
yes.
mean? Um, so that's what I think, that communication, like you say, is really important if you are in
Yeah,
rigging. Like
it's
being
key.
able to
Yeah.
talk to somebody else is, especially as a supervisor, is super important. Um, and same with, I should also mention the TDs, right? Because as you know, if you're doing development,
Hmm.
you're working with the TDs, and I really hope it's with, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's not, not you, but like in general.
Like you
But
mean
yeah, it's
developers?
really
Yeah.
developers, yeah,
Yeah.
to make sure
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
what we're,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because because everywhere that I've worked, the rigging department, we take care of our own stuff, we take care of our own tools.
Yes.
So it's important to have a really good relationship with the developers, so that we're working in a way that doesn't make their job harder, so that they're aware of what we're doing, and we're not again working kind of in this black box where they're out of the loop.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, in this case, yeah, I think we have a good communication with the development team. Indeed, I belong to development team in my
there you go.
company. It's yeah, it's rigging. It's under development team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's well,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's not under, but means my team, my parent team is it's R&D on the company.
Ah, I see. Interesting.
And yeah, it was like when I started was there, and in some point my boss asked me, "Do you want to change to assets?" And I said, "No, I like to work with. I want you as my direct boss."
Yeah.
I am super happy with him. So I
Yeah.
I think it's yeah. But he asked me, "You want to move because maybe no because we do development. I mean, M Gear part it's mainly developed at office time. I do a lot of home also, but a lot of hours it's also invested on the at the office, and that's the reason because sometimes it's very slow development because we are busy, so there's no time to
Yeah.
develop.
The
So
balance.
yeah, it's hard, and yeah, I don't have this one day. I will ask one day off to we I did agree to have a couple of hours every morning for that.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. I mean, it didn't happen because it happened when it's like downtime or we are more relaxed. I can take even more than that, like full days and weeks.
Yeah.
When we are busy and we are very busy for a long time,
Yeah.
it's first things. It's production, so we need to put office. But
Yeah.
yeah, I hope it's. I don't want to advance anything. Maybe when the podcast is out, it's true. But yeah, probably in mid September I will be a bit more relaxed. I mean, and hopefully it's gonna speed up because it's this year. It's I feel always super slow. But well, now M Gear is not. It's we are like a team, and the core team we are. It's Rafael, um, Jerome, Chris, and me. So we mainly four that.
Okay.
Don't forget anybody, I hope no. And then it's a lot like people who send pull requests and stuff. So there is like a community working on that. So many of the less releases, like a lot of the work was done by other persons, not by me. Like the new features. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean
It's good you have a team.
that was the goal to
Yeah.
share and receive like help and continue to do that. And yeah, that
Did you
yeah.
was that transition difficult for you for it? Was it ever just you doing M Gear, or was it always a team?
No, well, the thing is, M Gear was originally started by Jeremy Passarin, that was my supervisor at Dev to Shoot in Paris,
Okay.
and then well, we crossed paths then, and then he came to work as my supervisor in Barcelona in a studio that uh, didn't the studio didn't succeed. It was like more like a starting, but didn't work out. But
Okay.
the result of that, we did a lot of open source things with Helge Mathy. Do you know Helge? It was in one of the podcasts. A good friend.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
works now on Epic Games for working on the control rig actually, and we did a lot of open source tools there. And Jeremy did the first gear that was evolution from previous rigging season that he had, and it was gear, and it was for Softimage.
Right.
And then he did a quick alpha. Like he told me he spent like 1 month doing the alpha for M gear. That M is for Maya gear. because the first was Softime.
Okay.
It's not.
There you go.
Some people think it's because Mikael, but no, it's not my name. It's not my. It was Jeremy who did that.
Mhm,
And Jeremy moved to work as a rigging soup at Blur Studio in
mhm.
LA,
Okay.
and it stopped. It dropped the. I mean, it did this little alpha that was working, but not really for production or anything close. Or but it was
Mhm,
there. The seat was there. I did work at Shed with Gear and did
mhm.
my own version of M Gear. Sorry, Gear that was Gear MC. That was actually my variant.
Okay.
And when I moved to work in Maya, I try all the rigging tools that was available.
Mhm,
Like I bought some of them. I get some open source. Like I tried to search my way to. I didn't find anything that was of
mhm.
like I like it. So I recall it. Oh, Jeremy did an alpha of this Maya version. So I took that was 2013 and it was
Okay.
for La Guerre des Tux, the dog that stopped
Oh,
the
okay.
war.
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
was the first movie that used M Gear, actually,
Yeah. Ah, very
the first
cool.
iteration.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Japan and just continued developing for a few years until 2018.
Okay.
And in 2018, I did kind of like I actively try to push it as more like a community-driven
Mhm,
project,
mhm,
and I did the forum, I did the um, YouTube channel, I created like a website that have more like presence, something like more solid, or
mhm,
and then some people joined the well in this case was Jerome, the first who joined, and Rafael came to work with me at Anima. It's still working
mhm.
with us,
Okay.
and so it didn't have much of a choice, but because it was just do foreign gear, but yeah, still
Mhm,
doing stuff. It did a lot of great tools there, and still doing it. And uh, we had some people that go, go on like come for a few weeks or months to do very specific things that they need for his project. So they
mhm,
added that
mhm.
and then stop because they have to focus on other stuff. That's
Right.
also very very great.
Mhm.
And uh, and Chris, I think it's in Montreal now, or it's in I don't know. I guess it's in Montreal now. He was
Uh,
in Quebec before.
Lesage?
Yes, do you know him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know him directly. I think I've talked to him in the M Gear forum.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
a couple of
yeah.
times.
Well, it does like MGR development, but a little bit. It has a lot of stuff that he needs to do. But
Mhm.
he's the community manager. He's the the heart of the
Okay.
forum. He's replying
Yeah.
everybody, doing super. I mean, we have really good support in terms of
Yeah.
like only the I think Chris and Jerome. It's
Mhm.
they're always like helping the people and it's
Yeah.
strange to have someone that have a question and nobody replies.
Yeah. And that's part of why I really like M Gear is that you have that community. It was great. Like we had really great support from you even before. I remember there's sometimes I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
email
with
you, be
yeah.
like,
I have
"Hey."
NDAs. I cannot say anything.
And then yeah, so then when you guys transferred to the forum, like it's really great as far as MGO that you have that community, and you know, if we have an issue, anytime we've had an issue, the first thing I say is like, go look at the forum. Someone else has probably experienced the same thing that you're experiencing
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So
And
it's a really great resource.
yeah, and we just here like uh, we had last week 500 registered users the forum.
That's great.
Yeah,
Wow,
500. Oh, it's crazy. I mean,
that's amazing.
500 people doing rigging. I cannot visualize that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That
Because
is
it's
very
very
true.
niche, very niche.
Nah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then now, yeah, we like it's still open. Like if you want to send pull requests, it's welcome. Everybody can send stuff. We try to review. Of course, we review everything, not right, but
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, we didn't. I mean, normally we take all the pull requests. Normally the people send it like really nice stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know if I missed any, but I'm sorry if
Mhm.
someone sent it and I didn't take it. But um, yeah, that's yeah, there's where we are now, I think, and so now it's like not, yeah, now it's like a team dev. The credit is for the team dev, that whoever is the team dev. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I think it's I really like it. I mean, it's yeah, I learn a lot with a lot of the people who collaborate. Like Marcus, like he was also involved on MGear at the beginning.
Hmm.
It helped me to push through, because one of the things that was to get more people was I refactored the whole code, P8,
Oh
clean
wow,
everything,
yeah.
file by file, like that was like really hardcore. That was 3 years ago, in when
Hmm.
before like all this. That was, I think, was the key
Hmm.
to move it forward, was to format everything correctly,
Yeah.
document all the code correctly. Even the documentation is not like super great updated, the official
Hmm.
documentation, but the
Okay.
code itself, it's well documented, I think, and clean,
Yeah.
and we have some kind of rules. We try to stick with that. So yeah, that's, I think that's I think, and now last few months we are sponsored by Autodesk.
Really?
Yeah,
That's super awesome.
it's on the
Congratulations.
website. Uh,
Yeah.
TJ and the team did his magic stuff, and they get us some support from Autodesk. So the
Very
core
cool.
team, we have a less license to develop.
Hmm.
That it was a investment.
Yeah, that's very cool, man.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Now I need hardware sponsors. I need
You need some swag.
yeah, but I don't know. It's hard to get sponsor. I don't know. I don't ask for money, but yeah, sponsors are cool if they give you like free stuff, like,
Mm,
or because it's easier. Like I feel bad taking money, honestly, if
mm,
it's because it's a community something and many people
mm,
do pull requests. But
mm.
like for the core team, the people that are more involved, like to get like support, like license, or maybe is some hardware, give us like maybe some laptop or something to keep development. I don't think it's gonna happen. We are not cool. I mean,
Uh,
we don't do nice renders or anything. So
yeah,
the normally
yeah,
when
yeah.
I have some friends that they get like some Nvidia super hardcore um
Oh,
laptops and things like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
but they do rendering, they do things that they can promote for other like companies, like that
Well,
cool
that's because
coolness.
you're in rigging, right?
Yeah,
Rigging is not part of the cool,
yeah, exactly.
right? Modeling or lighting or whatever. Like we're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
hanging out
exactly.
in our
So the coolness is not it, yeah.
not really there.
Anyway, that's great. I think I'm checking the time here. It's almost 2 hours we in the
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
yeah. I think yeah, we have a few things that maybe we want to go quickly. I was
Sure.
hoping to talk, I mean, if the important topics here, but it's woman on the technical wonderland. That's not too many. You are the first one to come to the podcast. That I was telling you before, I try to bring uh more gender parity to the podcast, but sadly I think there's not that many technical like, I will, how do you say, not technical one, but like girls are working on the technical positions. You
Mm-hmm.
was not I mean, you was telling me that you saw pictures of on the cigarette on papers and things like that, that you see more woman than it looks like.
Yes. So so when we say that there aren't a lot of well, like females in technical roles, I really do think that that is a question of representation.
Yeah, I was talking.
That's
Yeah, I don't. Well, yes, please. Yeah, go. I don't want to cut you.
no worries. So like for example, yeah, so when I make an effort to go to SIGGRAPH every year, I think it's really great as far as training and like knowing what's going on in the industry. And one thing they started to do last year in SIGGRAPH is they're trying to increase representation. So that means that they have more female presenters who are leads and supervisors and heads of departments. And they also last year they did it more. They did it less this year, and I really hope someone watches past 2 hours so they can see this, and they do more next year. But they would actually like put up the names of the people on the team. It's not just the presenter, or they would put images of the team. And I think that's really important, because it's important as far as like there are more females, and then also diversity, right?
Yeah.
As far as the workforce. So it's true. I think that there are less women, less females than males in technical positions, but everywhere I've worked, I've always been like one of two. If you have a team of 5, that's not that bad. I think that part of the issue is, I think that there is this idea that, you know, there's a lot of ambiguity as far as what rigging is, and I think that a lot of people think that rigging is this, like, again, this very, very technical, difficult, math-oriented, whatever. And I really don't think it is. I think that rigging is very, yes, we have that mathematical part, and that's great, especially if you're developing. But rigging really is, it's a mix of art and science.
Yeah.
So, and it very much is logic.
Yeah.
That is the core of rigging.
Yeah.
You know.
I always compare with the Renaissance, like.
Yeah.
Like the math, science, and art was not a distinction; it was the same.
Exactly. And I think that the more that that is known, I think that you would have more females that would gravitate towards it. But like, it is true that there are different hurdles that you have to face if you are a female in the technical industry. So like, for me personally, in my on my journey, I've worked with amazing people that treat me the same as if I was a male supervisor. And that's what you want, right? You want to be treated the exact same.
Yeah, I mean, it's
right.
That's
what
should be
feminism
like
is, right?
not even like need to think about that. It's
exactly. But that's unfortunately, like, that's not the case. So for me as a female, I think that there's 2 challenges that we often face. One is convincing people that you know what you're talking about. That's something that I have experienced, and I continue to experience when I'm meeting someone for the first time, whether it's another supervisor or a client. That is just part of what you have to do, is you actually have to get over that hump of explain to people that, like, I know what I'm talking about. And the second thing is holding on to your independence. So for as females, we are kind of conditioned to be pleasant, to please people. And oftentimes, especially if you're a supervisor, you have to say no. Because what someone is suggesting is not feasible, it's out of scope, it's detrimental to your team. And a lot of times you kind of have to fight that that internal part of you that, like, you want to be pleasant, you want to go with the flow, you know. And I think one thing I really want to mention is that for younger female artists, when I say holding on to your independence, is that it's very common that people will maybe move you into other departments. The number of times I've heard of artists, they were an artist and they moved into production. And I think a lot of that times it's because people kind of say, oh, you're really organized, you should be in production,
Yeah.
you know. And then I think it's also very, I have encountered and I've seen in the past with younger female artists, like you will experience that case where somebody, oh, I want to teach you, I want to mold you into this
No.
amazing kind of artist, you know.
Yeah.
and 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 that's something that I mean, as far as like holding your independence, like I've
Yeah.
experienced that where I'm like, no, I don't need you. I can do this myself. I know how to. I'm
Yeah.
independent enough to figure this out, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, and I have like in my case, and I was talking with my coworker. She came as a rigger, and
Mhm.
she's helping me with the production management. So she's is
Mhm.
taking care about a lot of things that should be done by a project manager or by myself.
So I've experienced the same thing throughout my career where um I didn't I didn't choose to be a lead. That was kind of what I was pushed into because my lead left, because I am, you know,
Mm.
I'm organized, or I'm driven, or I have a good attention to detail.
Hmm.
Um, and again, like that, yes, that was for me. Now that's good for my career. I've had a lot of experience. Like even as far as March, my first job, I was a lead. But think about the number of hours that by doing that production work, or me doing that production work, I'm not spending in front of the computer rigging,
Yeah.
right? So yes, you know, I don't know your artist, but yes, that's good for her maybe when it comes as far as developing some of those managerial skills.
Hmm.
But in the end, that hurts her as far as her career,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of the problem, is that, and that's what I mean as far as like, as far as we want to be pleasant. The thing that you as a female, what you will hear often is you will hear two things. One, some people will say that you're difficult and that you're demanding. If you do not follow this path of being pleasant and being pleasing,
Yeah. Oh.
you are difficult and you are demanding. And this is something that, as a female supervisor, I do hear this. And part
You.
of it is my personality. I'm a very direct person, but at the same time, I feel as though if I was a male, I wouldn't encounter that.
Yeah. You think the I mean, it can be a like tag as same, like maybe difficult, maybe you
Mm-hmm.
know, like any like the tag itself, like. But
Mm-hmm.
do you? The other thing is why they attach the tag to this person,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not because they are very exigent or very difficult or no or other like qualities, but it's just because it's female. Period. So you
It's
think
there's bias.
it's
It's I think
biased?
it's bias, and that's what we deal with
Mm,
in females. We deal with
yeah,
unconscious bias all the time.
yeah, yeah. I think yeah. I mean I agree with that. I but yeah, that's true that that is bias. I think some I don't know, like I don't know if it's against. You cannot always generalize. There's, for
Sure.
instance, males that are very organized and very like it's
Mm-hmm.
like clear, and there are males that are like disaster, and there is all the thing in between.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
in the female, it's same thing. There's like some
Mm-hmm.
they're well organized and structured, and they're capable
Mm-hmm.
to, and some that are completely like a disaster, like
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of manage. But I have the feeling that in general, like female, there's some qualities that are good qualities. I don't think it's negative. It's like really positive that
Mm-hmm.
are more diligent in some. I
I think
feel.
I agree. I think so. I think, um, but
And
why?
what just so there is a bias there,
Yes. Yes.
and what is wrong for me is like
Mm-hmm.
okay, I have want like male and female to do this specific task, and I think
Mhm.
female maybe does it better.
Mhm.
And but there is a choice,
Why? Yeah.
and then is when I don't like the thing. It's no,
Mhm.
you female, okay, do that because you're gonna do it better because you woman. That is where it's completely wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to do it, I think
Mhm.
you should have the freedom to do it, and maybe you like it. I mean, but and if you think the qualities of one person it's more fit to one thing, not because
Mhm.
maybe it's female, but because it's female, it's maybe it's more diligent or some. I don't know how to say, but I feel it. I mean, you see it in some situations, like they're more
So I'm
organized.
gonna challenge you.
Okay.
I'm gonna challenge that because I experienced this in my team, right? We so why do we? Okay, yes, you have that one female artist that is diligent, right? It could be very easy to give her all of these management tasks. Why not instead do we not challenge the male artists to take care of some of this stuff by themselves? So, for
Yeah.
example, on my team, you do your own notes. If you have something that you need to send to animation or modeling, whatever, you're responsible for making the note. You're responsible for following up, and that's the same as if you are a male on my team or if you're a female on my team.
Uh-huh.
I think that, and I'm not saying for you um, in specifically, but I'm saying in general. I think that there is this tendency to allow male artists. Oh, they're just, you know what? They're not organized,
Yeah.
and you know what? They have to be. They should be,
Yeah. Yeah.
because at the end of the day, like that's one thing that we don't often talk about. At the end of the day, it's a job,
Yeah.
right? The requirement is that you are organized. The requirement is that you don't rely just on the coordinator to take care of the follow-up of everything.
Yeah.
Like, you should be responsible for your work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that there definitely is unconscious bias, but again, at the end of the day, yes, it's helpful in this case of like this artist, it's helpful that she's doing that work. But in the end, for her career, that is detrimental.
Yeah, and some, well, yeah, it depends. Of course, I don't know what a specific person wants, but yeah,
Yes.
if for me, if you don't have the choice,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it comes detrimental because you don't have the choice to search what you want to do, and if
But
you,
sometimes you don't have the choice.
yeah,
Sometimes it's brought to you as a opportunity. Oh, this is great opportunity for you to
uh,
do, this and that. And
yeah,
so you fall into it. And that's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean by
yeah,
holding on to your independence.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
exactly that. It's
yeah,
exactly that, to say, like, you know what, that's a great opportunity, but I want to focus on the technical.
and you feel like it happened to you, like you've been like pushed to maybe take certain responsibilities,
Yes.
and that was the do you think you will do it another way if you had the maybe the opportunity or maybe the experience
Mhm.
like that you have now with I mean the how you say like the um
The
your
hindsight,
experience, yeah, excuse me,
the hindsight.
yeah, exactly, like
Yeah.
something that you can foresee now because you have
Mhm.
the experience of the past, and maybe you can advise now to young
Mhm.
people to do, I mean to take care with that, no, like
Well, it happens. It's a double-edged sword.
mm,
I can't say that it's one way and another way, but um, I think that in our industry, the idea is that, if you want more money, right, you become a lead.
yeah,
Not everybody should be a lead.
mm-hmm,
There is a question of personality. There are
mm-hmm,
certain traits, and I think that it's also important to recognize that if you are a leader, a supervisor, it's not just the fact that you have the say, you have a lot of responsibility as well, right? That again, I don't think a lot of people realize this when you're young and when you're thinking about, oh, this is this great opportunity.
Yeah.
I think that I know for a fact, especially at like larger studios, where there isn't a lot of seniority, you have a lot of junior artists and they kind of get pushed into these lead roles. Yes, that's a good opportunity, but you can burn out those artists really fast because they don't have the experience. They don't have enough manual experience, right? They don't have the years to know how to handle themselves, and you learn on the fly, and if you're good at that, great. But yeah, for me, I felt, to be very honest with you, I felt the difference. You're fine up to a certain point, and then you hit a certain point where you're behind everybody else that has the same amount of experience as you, because you have not spent those hours in front of the computer. And I experienced that, and I had to dig myself out of that hole. Like, and you'll see on my LinkedIn, I've done a lot of like rigging dojo. I've done a lot of training on my own. I've had to do a lot of that on my own time because I didn't do that work on the job.
I see.
And this is why when I had like artists on under me, there are a lot of artists that are very, very talented, and they want to be a lead. They want to be this, and they really don't pay attention to the foundation of what we do, right? Skinning or this and that. And I tell them, I said, you are fine now. You're going to get to a point in your career where, because you haven't spent that time, it's going to hit you. It's the reckoning, So yeah, for me, it was getting kind of pushed into those roles. In some ways, was detrimental to my development as a technical artist. It was great for my development as far as the leadership and management, whatnot. And I think another point that I would like to make as far as like unconscious bias. So when we talk about rigging supervisors, when we talk about women in lead positions, there's this myth that women are more nurturing, that we're more nurturing, we're more empathetic, that this is how we are. It's it's like, oh, women are more diligent and more more attention to detail. And there's actually been studies as far as like women in leadership positions, and we actually they found that when you actually look at as far as like the top qualities, it's more about like taking initiative, getting results, like self-development, resiliency. Like, these are some of the qualities that we have. Like, for me, I am not this nurturing lead. I will support up to a certain point, but again, at the end of the day, you are an artist. You're doing a job. The company is paying you to do a job. If I will help you from a technical point of view as far as I can, but if you're not hitting your deadlines, there's only so much I can do, right? I have people that I answer to as well. So there's all of these things that exist. And there's a lot of, in some ways, barriers that exist for women, at the beginning of your career, at the middle of your career, later on in your career, like me, where, and I think that's part of what can account for why there are less females. Right?
Yeah. There's, I was just recalling now that maybe it's a little off now, but here in Japan was a case, like, was, I don't know, this few years ago, like it's recent, that in the medicine university there was like the I don't know how they was like not at with the same level or like notes or higher notes, they were rejecting females, like super machist.
They
Yeah,
were rejecting
yeah,
females from positions.
yeah, in the university to get in as to study as a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and they found out that they wanted to be sure that because the females they have kids and they like like what's wrong,
Yeah,
and there was like yeah that's I think that's extreme case of like kind of things like
but I think
the
that's an extreme case, but I think that that still exists. I think
no
that
this is I mean this is last year or this is
yeah,
or something like that. It's new. It's kind
yeah,
of like they catch the I don't know how. Probably someone sued it. I don't know. They
hmm
research. They find the documentation and they say what the hell,
hmm
and that
but,
happened. Yeah.
but see, that's again, that's one of the kind of misconceptions that have come up, and the stuff I'm talking to you about right now. It's like I've looked it up. I've researched. If you look up like women in leadership positions, you'll find all sorts of studies as far as this stuff. And one thing that uh, came up was that there's this idea that women take themselves out of the running. That we just because we have kids that we don't want to we take ourselves out of this like leadership stream, and that's actually not the case. I think for me, I personally I don't have children right now, but for me, I didn't go to school and get on this path to have children. I came on this path to because I like to rig and because
Mm.
I'm a technical person. That's what I do, and I have career aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
So um, again, it's part of the unconscious bias, and I think it's
Yeah.
something that I think it's important for anybody, and not just males. I think it's
Mm.
important for anybody that are in these positions um, of authority in 3D to ask themselves when you're evaluating a female artist, right? Because another thing that happens is that like generally as females, if you think about it, if already somebody doesn't think that you're capable, you have less latitude to make mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that it's important for us to always kind of just examine that bias that is there because it does exist. It's ingrained in us.
And if someone wants to get on the rigging, and especially females, what do you will advise, or when rigging on CG in general, or do you think that it can give some advice or
Sure.
something that maybe can help someone in the future?
Skinning.
Skinning.
Have good skinning. Have like we talked about this off of the podcast as well, but so for us we work with Unreal, just a
Uh,
game engine. You really only have access to joints and blend shapes,
mm,
right? So it's very difficult to find artists that have a very
yeah.
strong
Yeah.
skills as far as skinning, or like you say, corrective blend shapes, even seniors.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people they work, especially I think in VFX. I haven't worked in VFX. This is my thoughts or
Mm,
what I've seen. Is that like you do your skinning and then you have your layers of deformation and then you have your muscles and you have your simulations or whatever. So I think that there is a definitely a neglect when it comes to
mm,
like the foundation of what we do.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I was meaning like more like a female, like someone
For even
the to make like I don't know, like some yeah, maybe call like show up like me look there's more females on technical positions and things like that that maybe like how you said before like exposition there's maybe I was thinking like
oh
let
representation,
or representation sorry yes
yeah.
so um yeah maybe if the females like see like if there's I mean there's more females on technical positions maybe they're do you think if there's more representation visible representation on they will be more people interested on
I
or
think so.
because
Yeah, I definitely think so. Again, I think that um actually I don't know. I think that representation is important for me personally as a female and person of color. Going to SIGGRAPH and seeing that the amount of women that are there on different teams, to see that there are different ethnicities, mine included, you feel like you belong.
Yeah,
And that's the most
belonging.
important thing,
Yeah.
right? It's to feel as though you belong. It's not that someone is making a place for you, it's that place already exists.
Yeah, the feeling like, yeah, they're not the only one. Even, probably nobody's the only one doing something, but if you don't see it, you feel it.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
So, and I don't have, the only thing I would say for females is don't sell yourself short. Don't second guess yourself as far as what you can achieve. Don't think that, this is too technical for me, or there isn't a space for me, or this and that. I think that females are just as capable as males when it comes to the technical side of things. I've seen more female candidates applying over time. And even like on the technical side of things, I think there's also more female developers. But yeah, I don't know where that change happens. Like, I don't even know if it's something that happens at younger ages, right? Before you even get to the point where you're thinking about what you want to do with your life. If it, I have friends that are teachers, and they say that some girls are less encouraged to go into like technical things. I don't even know if it goes down to like how we, as far as toys for your kids. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we give young boys, we give them little,
yes.
I don't know what they're called, mechano.
Yeah, the mechano. Yeah, the Legos.
That's it.
Things there.
Yeah, we give that to boys, and then we give dolls to girls.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to kind of to treat them the same. My father was a mechanical engineer. For him, math, for both myself and my sister, we learned math from a very young age. He would quiz me on multiplication tables before I learned it in school. We did Legos. Like, there really wasn't this kind of gender biasing in my household. He had 2 girls, so he had no choice. He's like, well,
yeah,
I'm gonna pass on my stuff to somebody. So, and it's interesting because it was only when I was talking to a colleague of mine a couple years ago that I realized how lucky I was. That's not common.
Oh.
It's really sad.
Yeah. I heard like stories like from like that terrible, like really terrible, like in this like topic, like some parents that are like a bit like I don't know how to say it, like really biased to one gender, and then it's like, oh man, what are you thinking? Oh, clearly not thinking at all.
But it's also a generational thing, right? Like, I feel that's how it was back in the day, and I think that it changes over time. But I think in general, it's really important to be aware of how we treat females, how we treat our daughters or our nieces or nephews, and the things that we say, because kids, that stuff gets baked in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't have the answers as far as like, how can we have more women in the industry, or how can we encourage it more? All I can say is the ones that are there is that we make sure that we not that we accept them, that we, and not that we make room for them, we treat them the same. It shouldn't be, I should not be a surprise. The fact that I'm a rigging supervisor should not be surprising to people. And it usually is, right? It should just be.
Yeah.
Usually, people that I meet, people are very surprised. Like, really?
Yeah. No. Well, I don't. Well, no, I'm not. I would say no. When I knew you, I was like surprised. I didn't thought on that. But
that's cool. That's good. That's what
it
you
was
want,
like
right?
she's rigging supervisor. Okay. What?
All right.
It can be
Exactly.
any other thing. I mean,
Exactly.
that
And that's the,
that's
but that's the thing.
normal.
Like
Like
that's
it's not
great.
like surprise in any way or in the others. Yeah,
Yeah. But I
yeah,
meet people that are surprised. Um and look kind of confused as well. Um
yeah,
and that's the reality, right? Yeah, it
yeah.
sucks.
That's that's not cool. But yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's what I think. I think that you know, when we have females on our team, we make sure that we are allowing them to be as technical
mm,
um, as males, and I think that um, we try our best to treat them the same and just be aware of our own unconscious bias because
yeah,
I have it myself, you have it, whoever has it. That's how we
yeah,
grew up, and so it's just something. I think as soon as you have awareness of that,
yeah,
I think that will help.
yeah. Absolutely. Well,
So.
I think we can maybe wrap here. I'm glad we talk about this topic because myself, I think I learned some valuable lessons today, and I think it's something that yeah, we have the chance to. I mean, we have to take this chance to expose it and to talk about this and to just to make this conversation happening. So I hope the people who's listening this will at least have a few thoughts about this and think for the future. And
Mhm.
yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.